Everyone have a seat, please. So I'd like to start off by going around the room and just thanking all the elected officials that are here with us today. And when I say your name, if you could please come up so everybody could put a name to a face and just say a few words of how you feel today on this great celebration for Martin Luther King. First, I'd like to call up the President of Brockton City Council, Moses Rodriguez.
Boy, this is 2 in a row that I don't have a speech. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. As we have said in the past, it's important for us to have this event here in our city. We had a great breakfast on Saturday, put on by the Brockton area NAACP. And I think it's fitting that we have something else here in the city on the day of Martin Luther King. I've said this often that Martin Luther King didn't have to do what he did. He didn't. You know, he had it well off. He was a pastor in a church, a well-respected man. And if he wanted to continue to do that, he could have continued to do that like many others did. But yet, he saw injustice in this country, and he wanted to do something about it. And that's why he did what he did, to a point where he lost his life in protecting people in this country. We often forget that sacrifices are important, but more importantly, we have to recognize those that sacrifice for us. So I just want to thank you for being here today. And again, we promise that we're going to do this every year. Perhaps next year we're going to ask that the temperature be turned up just a hair, since it's a little cold out there. But I promise you better weather next year. And please come back so we can do this every year in honor of the great Dr. King. Thank you.
For someone who didn't have a speech, that was pretty good. So next up, I would like to call up Jerry Cassidy, the Massachusetts State Representative.
Kind of tough to follow the President of the City Council. Moses, congratulations. This is a true honor to have you as the President of the City Council. It's great to work together. And it is cold outside after last night's game. Did the Patriots win last night? Yeah. Great game, Super Bowl. No, this is truly an honor. Thank you very much for having me here. I've come here the last three years. My colleague, Claire Cronin, who's the chairman of Judiciary, she was very instrumental in the criminal justice reform that had a very big impact here in Brockton. Just like Dr. King, and she worked very hard to get this bill passed. And we worked very well together. And it's just an honor and privilege to be here, so thank you very much. And I see my good friend Phyllis Ellis, she was in charge of the breakfast the other day, and there was 400 people there. And it was just outstanding to see so many, Congressman Lynch was there, and one of his good lines was, "Don't we miss Barack Obama now?" So, thank you.
Next up, I would like to call up Susan Nicastro, Brockton City Councilor, Ward 4.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak for a moment. And I want to thank our council president, Moses Rodriguez, for inviting me to appear here today. This is a wonderful celebration of a fine man. You know, we're celebrating in these days Martin Luther King's 90th birthday. He would have been 90 years old. And interestingly, this year, it's 51 years since he died. He died in 1968. So God love him. There was so many years of of promise that was cut short by the circumstances of 1968. You know, Martin Luther King was very influenced by Mahatma Gandhi from India, and he adopted his approach of peaceful resistance. We must peaceably resist what we know is wrong in these dark days of the United States. We have a lot of challenges right now. I believe we will get through them by hanging together, by remembering what we all believe in this country and the goodness of this country. And I thank you all for being here today to honor Martin Luther King's memory. Thank you.
Next up, Mark Lindy, Southeastern School Committee. He's right here, just kidding, behind me.
Well, I didn't think I was going to speak because I'm running the camera, but this is one of my favorite events every year, and the reason it is because of all of the kids here in the front row. I love to hear what you have to say about Dr. King and his nonviolent message, and just it's important, like Moses said, to do something on Martin Luther King Day to remember him. He stood for democracy, for people getting involved, and for people loving one another. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm going to go back behind the camera.
Next, I would like to call up the Cape Verdean Association President, Nancy Lopes.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is actually my second Martin Luther King event as president, and again, also one of my favorite events that we do just because of the meaning behind this day. And last year I talked about servant leadership, right? So it was a message for our elected officials around being a servant leader, just like Martin Luther King was. He was a great leader because he stood for his people. But today, I want to talk to the youth in the room, the young people. Martin Luther King was under the age of 40 when he stood up and chose to take on this fight, to believe in peaceful protest. And I had the pleasure of hearing Michelle Obama speak last April. And she spoke about the recent attitudes and the recent things going on in our political and social world. And she talked about how young people are so frustrated with our current administration, the acts of certain people. And she talked about how that frustration is actually a blessing because we have a generation that doesn't understand how people can look at each other and not see character, right? We have a whole generation that thinks people are what they do, not what they look like. So it's a blessing for young people, but it's also a call to action. It means that your frustration, the things that make you upset about what people do, when people hurt people, when people fight against people for reasons other than not doing the right thing, we all have a responsibility. And that's what I call on today, is for the young people to take back control and to fight for our rights, because it's an immigrant issue, it's a race issue, it's a women's issue, and we all have a place to fight for what matters to each and every one of us. Because it's about character and doing the right thing. So on behalf of Martin Luther King today, I empower you all to go out and do great things. Thank you.
Were those inspiring words or not? Yes. I honestly feel like Martin Luther King was just speaking through her right now. Am I the only one that feels like that? That was a wonderful, wonderful speech. And honestly, I would like to say that what she said, we can all take apart from that right now. Because what she said was right. And if we all stop to think and change the way we're doing things, we can all together move forward. Am I right? Am I right? Okay, next up, I don't know if everybody has seen her today, But with us today, we have the president of the NAACP in the Brockton area. So please, Phyllis Ellis, can you come up here and join us and say a few words?
Good afternoon. This is my first time coming, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Moses and the Cape Verdean Association of Brockton for having me here today. As Moses and Jerry said, we celebrated our anniversary for Martin Luther King on Saturday. It was a great event, but any celebration of Dr. King is a great event. Our theme on Saturday was How High is the Mountain, and your theme today is Reliving the Dream. And I can't wait to hear the rest of the program, the message of Dr. King. He was a great man, yes, he was a leader, fighter, and he keep on fighting. He making changes as we are today. So I am looking forward to hearing the rest of the program, and thank you for having me. And I will be back next year. Thank you.
And say these empowering words. It's not easy. So give them a round of applause now. We'll give them a round of applause when they're done. And I would just like to recognize the kids that are coming up. So first we have Isaiah Fires, Ricky Mendez, Allie Adams, Xavier Adams, Aisha Lopes, and Marcus Tavares. Can you guys please come up?
Only in the darkness can we see the stars. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
We may all come from different shapes, but we're in the same boat now. We must use time creatively.
Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy to a friend.
The time is always right to do what is right.
Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase.
Waiting makes us down until it strikes.
And like a mountain, seeing is not always believing.